student loan relief is finally moving again. And if you filed a borrower defense claim years ago, this could be one of the biggest financial updates you hear all year. Because more than 170,000 post-class student loan borrowers are now entitled to full settlement relief after the Department of Education missed court-ordered deadlines to decide their claims. And when I say full relief, I am not only talking about your remaining student loan balance disappearing. Depending on your specific loans and payment history, some borrowers can also receive refunds of qualifying payments they previously made to the federal government. And there is another piece of this that matters a lot for this channel. The credit trade line connected to those loans is supposed to be deleted from the credit report as part of full settlement relief. So stay with me, because I am going to explain exactly who this applies to, which schools are involved, what the July 2026 court decision changed, what kind of refund you could actually receive, and what you should be checking on your credit reports after the relief is processed. Now first, let's clear up something important. You may have seen headlines saying 450,000 or even 500,000 student loan borrowers are getting forgiveness. That does not mean 500,000 people suddenly became eligible this week. The larger Suite V. McMahon's settlement has affected more than 500,000 borrowers and secured at least $23 billion in federal student loan relief overall. But the big July 2026 update specifically affects more than 170,000 post-class borrowers whose borrower defense applications were not decided by the deadlines required under the settlement. And this is where it gets interesting. On July 17, 2026, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals unanimously rejected the Department of Education's attempt to push those deadlines back. In simple English, the deadline passed. The department did not decide these applications on time, and under the settlement, missing that deadline triggers full settlement relief for qualifying post-class borrowers. So who exactly are we talking about? This case started because federal student loan borrowers had filed what are called borrower defense applications. Borrower defense is a federal process that may allow student loans to be discharged when a school misled the borrower or engaged in certain misconduct related to the borrower's education or decision to enroll. Now there are different groups inside the Suite settlement. If your borrower defense application was already pending on June 22, 2022, you were generally considered part of the original settlement class. Then there are the post-class applicants. Those are borrowers who filed borrower defense applications after the settlement was signed but before final approval, generally between June 23 and November 15, 2022. And this is where the school you attended matters. The settlement contains a list commonly called Exhibit C. There are more than 150 schools and brands on that list. Some names you may recognize include IT Technical Institute, the Art Institutes, DeVry, University of Phoenix, Fortis College, Kaplan College, Walden University, Grand Canyon University, and many others. Now listen carefully, because simply hearing your school's name does not automatically mean you qualify for this particular settlement relief today. Your application date matters. Whether you actually filed a borrower defense application matters, and whether you were a class member or post-class applicant matters. For post-class applicants connected to an Exhibit C school, the department had until January 28, 2026 to issue a decision. If you did not receive a decision by that deadline, the settlement says you are entitled to full settlement relief. The department sent eligibility notices to that group around March 30th, 2026, and according to CPSL, the relief should generally be delivered within 1 year of that notice. For post-class applicants from schools that were not on Exhibit C, the decision deadline was April 15th, 2026. If the department did not decide your application by that deadline, you were also entitled to full settlement relief. Those borrowers were supposed to receive notices by June 15th, 2026, with relief generally due within 1 year after the notice. So now let's talk about what full settlement relief actually means, because this is where a lot of videos start exaggerating. Full settlement relief has 3 major pieces. Number 1, the outstanding federal student loan debt that was the subject of your borrower defense application is discharged. Number 2, qualifying amounts you previously paid to the federal government toward those loans can be refunded. And number 3, the credit trade line associated with those loans is supposed to be deleted from your credit report. That third part is extremely important because I have seen people explain this as the loan gets changed to paid as agreed. That is not what the settlement says. For borrowers receiving full settlement relief, the associated loan trade line is supposed to be deleted, not simply updated from delinquent to positive, deleted from the credit report. Now, does that guarantee your credit score jumps 100 points? No, please do not let anybody tell you that. Your score depends on the rest of your credit profile. Maybe you have other late payments, collections, charge-offs, credit card utilization, a mortgage, auto loans, different account ages. Deleting one student loan trade line can affect different people differently. And there is another issue. If that student loan was one of the oldest accounts on your report, deleting the entire trade line can also change the age and composition of your file. So do not obsess over one promised score increase. What matters is that your credit reports accurately reflect the relief you were legally entitled to receive. Now let's talk about the cash refund. This is where I want to be very careful, because I have seen people throwing around numbers like everybody is getting $15,000. That is not how it works. There is no universal $15,000 payout. The refund depends on how much you actually paid toward the loans covered by your borrower defense claim and whether those payments qualify under the settlement. Full settlement relief includes refunds of amounts paid to the federal government toward the covered loans. And depending on the type of federal loan you had, not every payment necessarily went directly to the federal government. So your refund can be very different from somebody who attended the exact same school. One borrower may have barely made payments before the loan went into forbearance. Another borrower may have spent 10 years paying. Another may have had money taken through wage garnishment or federal tax refund offsets. PPSL says qualifying garnished wages and tax refunds connected to the covered loans are also supposed to be refunded. So yes, for some borrowers that could mean thousands of dollars, but it is based on what happened with your loans, not some automatic settlement check everybody receives. Now here is what I would do if I thought I qualified. First, find your borrower defense application. Confirm when you submitted it. Then confirm the school connected to that application. Do not rely on a TikTok comment saying, "Oh yeah, University of Phoenix was on the list, so everybody gets forgiveness." That is not enough. You need to know which settlement group you fall into. Then check your email. Search for messages from federal student aid. Search spam, junk, deleted folders. If you were an Exhibit C post-class borrower who missed the January deadline, PPSL says the department should have sent the full settlement relief notice around March 30. If you were a non-Exhibit C post-class borrower whose application missed the April deadline, the notice should have arrived by June 15. And if you were seeing your loan balance suddenly move around, do not automatically panic. Some borrowers currently going through discharge are seeing strange temporary balance changes while the department and loan servicers unwind the loans. PPSL says those fluctuations can be part of the discharge process. Now let's bring this back to your credit. Once the relief starts showing as completed, pull all 3 reports. Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. Do not assume that because StudentAid.gov shows a 0 balance. Every credit bureau automatically updated at the exact same moment. The settlement requires the department or its servicers to request deletion of the relevant trade line, but the department has acknowledged that credit reporting agencies can take additional time to actually implement the deletion, so check each bureau. If the student loan trade line that should have been deleted is still reporting months after your relief has been completed, keep your documentation, your eligibility notice, discharge confirmation, servicer letters, statements, anything showing what happened. Then follow up with the servicer and the appropriate credit bureau. Do not start randomly disputing every student loan on your report. Focus on the loans actually covered by your borrower defense application and the relief you were actually awarded. And remember, this settlement is not general student loan forgiveness for everybody. If you never filed borrower defense during the settlement window, this particular sweet automatic relief mechanism may not apply to you. But borrower defense itself still exists. Federal student aid says borrowers may be eligible for borrower defense discharge when a school misled them or engaged in qualifying misconduct. So if you genuinely believe your school misrepresented things like employment outcomes, educational programs, costs, or other important information related to your enrollment, you can review the current borrower defense rules and application process through federal student aid. But do not file a fake borrower defense claim just because you want your loan deleted. You need a legitimate basis in supporting information. Now here's the big takeaway. This July 2026 court decision did not suddenly erase loans for every student borrower in America. What it did was protect the rights of more than 170,000 post-class borrowers whose claims were not decided on time, and for borrowers who qualify for full settlement relief. The result can be massive, the remaining covered federal loan balance discharged, qualifying past payments potentially refunded, and the associated student loan trade line deleted from the credit report. That can change somebody's monthly cash flow, their debt load, their credit file, and potentially what they are able to do financially next. So if you filed borrower defense back in 2022, do not assume this has nothing to do with you. Find the application. Check the date. Check the school. Check your email. Check StudentAid.gov. Then check all 3 credit reports once your relief processes. Because some people have been waiting years for this. And after all that waiting, the last thing you want is for relief you already won to be sitting somewhere in your inbox while you are still making decisions as if that debt is never going away. And if you know somebody who attended one of these schools and filed borrower defense around that 2022 period, send them this video. They may not even know what just happened. Because this is not about finding some student loan loophole. It is about making sure borrowers receive the relief the settlement already says they are entitled to.